to Growing for Good with Funding for Good. We have another edition here in North Carolina, and we are enjoying the spring right now with a lot of pollen in the air. I'm able to be outside and record on my front porch, so I'm welcoming you to my home office front porch. Today I just want to talk to you a little bit about the very first thing that you need to do before you start with any grant writing or even think about grant writing. And a lot of people skip this first step because they just don't know that it's where they need to start. You need to make a list of all of your program, organization, staff needs and associate a dollar amount with them. Once you have that in place, I would also go and write down a time frame of when you need those dollars in hand. I always tell people it takes about 6 to 9 months to get grant funding in hand. Sometimes it can be quicker if you're working with a small foundation or maybe a family foundation, but give yourself several months to find the grants you qualify for, to put your applications together, and then to wait and see if you're going to be selected for funding. Once you have that list together, then you go out and start looking for the prospects that fit the needs that you currently have. So not only do you need the prospects to fit, you need your needs to fit what the potential donor is interested in funding, what their priority areas are. Sometimes you can make your needs fit into their priority areas without them being a perfect match, but ultimately you want them to be a pretty good match to begin with. Once you do that, then you can start making phone calls, building relationships with program officers, talking about the programs or projects that you have a need for and what might be a good amount to apply for, if they feel like their board might support your project, and if they encourage you to apply. So a lot of people start off in the wrong place and they start looking for foundations first that fund their specific subject area. So maybe it's an organization that works with mental health and they're looking for foundations that support mental health. Well, I understand the reason why people do that, but the problem with it is maybe your specific need at the moment is preventative programming, and the foundation that you found that supports mental health doesn't fund preventative programming. And so then it really doesn't matter that they fund mental health, they're not a good match for you. If you had your list to begin with, you would be able to eliminate them from the beginning instead of waiting until you call a program officer or waiting until you've submitted an application just for them to call you back and say, oh, I'm sorry, you're not a fit. I work with a friend here in town who had a professional fundraising group put an application in for him recently, or a letter of inquiry, and they were rejected, and basically the foundation said you're not a good fit. My friend called the foundation and said, can you give me some feedback on what the reasoning is? And they said, well, we only fund this one particular city in North Carolina, and that's not where you are. Well, if the people who had submitted that letter of inquiry had bothered to call the program officer first, they already knew where the program was located, they could have saved themselves the time of putting in the letter of inquiry and saved the hopes and expectations of the organization, because they wouldn't have gotten funded, and they could have figured that out from the beginning if they had done their research correctly and had a good needs list. So that's my feedback for you today. Put your needs list together, associate a dollar amount with it, and then a time frame for when you need those dollars in hand before you start doing any research for foundations that you qualify to apply with. And if you have anything that you'd like us to talk about or cover on our next episode of Growing for Good, please feel free to make notes in the comments section. Email us at info@fundingforgood.org, and we hope that you enjoy this video, and we'll see you next time.